The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the judge entered, his robe flowing behind him. It was an intense case, one that had divided the town. A young man, Daniel Carter, was accused of stealing from an elderly woman, Mrs. Eleanor Williams. The evidence against him seemed solid. Surveillance footage showed a figure in a hoodie near her house, and a wallet found in his possession matched one reported missing. But Daniel swore he was innocent. His lawyer, Mr. Thompson, did his best to argue that there was no concrete proof tying Daniel to the theft. "Your Honor," he said, "we have no direct evidence that my client was the one who stole the wallet. The footage is unclear, and the witness statements are contradictory." The judge nodded, but the prosecution was relentless. They painted Daniel as a troubled young man, someone desperate enough to steal. Just as the judge was about to deliver his verdict, something completely unexpected happened. A stray dog, one that had been seen wandering around the courthouse for weeks, suddenly trotted into the courtroom. People gasped. How did it get in? Court officials moved to remove the dog, but it refused to leave. Instead, it walked directly toward Daniel, sniffing him, then turned and started barking toward a man sitting in the back of the courtroom, Mr. Walter Green, the supposed key witness who claimed to have seen Daniel committing the crime. The dog barked furiously, growing more aggressive. Walter, looking nervous, tried to wave it off. "Get this dog out of here," he snapped, but the animal wouldn't stop. Then, in an astonishing moment, the dog lunged and pulled something from Walter's coat pocket. Wallet. The room fell into stunned silence. The bailiff picked up the wallet and handed it to the judge. Mrs. Williams, the elderly victim, gasped. "That's my wallet," she exclaimed. All eyes turned to Walter. His face drained of color. The prosecution's attorney stammered, "Mr. Green, can you explain this?" But Walter couldn't. He started sweating, his hands trembling. The judge, sensing something was off, ordered the bailiff to detain Walter for questioning. Under pressure, Walter broke down and confessed. He had stolen the wallet himself but framed Daniel to avoid suspicion. He thought no one would ever question his testimony. After all, he was a respected member of the community. The courtroom erupted in disbelief. Daniel, who had been moments away from conviction, sat in shock. His lawyer patted him on the back, whispering, "You're free." The judge, now glaring at Walter, ordered his immediate arrest for perjury and theft. Meanwhile, the stray dog sat quietly by Daniel's feet, as if knowing it had just saved his life. After the trial, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about the dog. He found out from courthouse staff that it had no owner and had been wandering the area for months. With his newfound freedom, Daniel made a decision. He would adopt the dog that had saved him. They walked out of the courthouse together, side by side. The stray dog had no idea that, with one simple action, it had not only exposed a criminal but had also changed two lives forever. Daniel's, who was saved from wrongful imprisonment, and his own, as he finally found a loving home. The courtroom had seen many surprises before, but no one would ever forget the day a stray dog delivered justice. As Daniel stepped out of the courthouse with a stray dog by his side, he felt the weight of the past few weeks finally lifting off his shoulders. He had been moments away from losing everything. His freedom, his reputation, his future. But fate, in the form of a stray dog, had intervened. He knelt down and patted the dog's head. "I don't know who you are, buddy, but you saved my life today." The dog wagged its tail, eyes filled with intelligence and warmth. News of the trial spread like wildfire. Reporters swarmed Daniel outside the courthouse, eager to hear his thoughts. "Daniel, how do you feel about today's verdict?" one journalist asked. "Grateful," Daniel replied. "Grateful to my lawyer, to the judge for seeing the truth, and most of all to this incredible dog. If it weren't for him, I don't know where I'd be right now." Mrs. Williams, the elderly woman whose wallet had been stolen, also stepped forward. She gently took Daniel's hand. "I'm so sorry, young man," she said. "I was wrong to believe the accusations against you." Daniel gave her a small smile. "It's okay, ma'am. You were just trying to do the right thing. I'm just glad the truth came out. As the media frenzy died down, Daniel realized he had an important decision to make. He couldn't just leave the dog behind. This animal had done something no human had been able to do: prove his innocence. So, without hesitation, he decided to take the dog home with him. The problem was, Daniel didn't really have a home. His apartment lease had expired while he was dealing with a trial, and with his name tarnished in the community, finding work had been difficult. But one thing was certain. He wasn't about to abandon the dog that had saved him. He named the dog Justice. For the first few nights, Daniel and Justice slept wherever they could. Park bench. An old friend's couch. But luck seemed to be on their side. A local business owner, having heard about Daniel's ordeal, offered him a job at his auto repair shop. "You've been through hell, kid. You deserve a break," the man said. With a steady income, Daniel was able to rent a small apartment. It wasn't much, but it was home. And for the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of stability returning to his life. Justice adapted quickly to his new home, proving to be more than just a hero. He was a loyal companion. Every morning, he would wake Daniel up by nudging his hand, and every evening, he would wait by the door for his return. They became inseparable. One evening, as Daniel walked Justice through the park, he noticed a familiar face, Mrs. Williams. She was sitting alone on a bench, looking troubled. Concerned, Daniel approached her. "Mrs. Williams, are you okay?" She sighed, looking up at him. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened," she admitted. "I feel terrible for what you went through. I misjudged you. And I've been alone for so long. I guess I was too quick to trust the wrong people." Daniel sat down beside her. "It's okay," he said sincerely. "We all make mistakes. But the important thing is we learn from them." She smiled sadly. "You're a good young man, Daniel. I wish I had family around. But it's just me now." That moment sparked something in Daniel. He had lost so much, but maybe he had gained something too. A chance to form new connections. Over the next few weeks, he made an effort to visit Mrs. Williams, helping her with groceries, fixing small things around her house, and simply keeping her company. She, in turn, found joy in cooking meals for him and Justice. Their bond grew stronger. One day she made a surprising offer. "Daniel, I have a house that's too big for me. What if you and Justice moved in? You wouldn't have to pay rent. Just help me around the house and keep me company." Daniel was stunned. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I've spent too many years alone. I'd like to have family again, even if it's chosen family." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. He had spent so much time feeling lost, but now he had a home, a job, and people who cared about him. And it had all started because of one incredible dog. Justice wagged his tail as if he understood everything. Maybe he did. After all, he wasn't just a stray anymore. He was family. But fate wasn't done with them yet. One afternoon, as Daniel was working in the repair shop, a police car pulled up outside. Two officers stepped out, looking serious. His stomach clenched. Had something gone wrong? "Daniel Carter?" one officer asked. "Yes. You're going to want to hear this," the officer said. "We've been investigating Walter Green. Turns out he's been involved in more than just that one theft. He's connected to a whole string of crimes: fraud, robbery, even blackmail. And thanks to what happened in court, we were able to dig deeper. Your case might have just exposed a much bigger criminal operation." Daniel was speechless. "You mean, Justice didn't just save me? He helped bring down a criminal?" The officer nodded. "Exactly. And we're here because we have a proposal. The K-9 unit is looking for skilled dogs. With the right training, Justice could help solve more cases. Would you be interested in enrolling him in a special program?" Daniel looked down at Justice. He had never imagined something like this, but it made sense. Justice had a gift, a keen sense for truth. And if he could help more people the way he had helped Daniel, maybe it was meant to be. After careful thought, Daniel agreed to let Justice undergo training. It wasn't easy, watching his best friend go through rigorous police training, but it became clear that Justice was born for it. Months later, he officially became a certified K-9 officer. But their journey didn't end there. Justice's first official case led him to uncover another crime, and this time Daniel was more than just a spectator. He was asked to assist, given his experience and bond with Justice. Before long, Daniel found himself training to become part of the K-9 unit as well. From falsely accused to a hero in his own right, Daniel's life had come full circle. And through it all, one thing remained certain. Justice wasn't just a stray dog who had walked into a courtroom. He was a symbol of truth, loyalty, and second chances. Together, they had changed each other's lives forever. As months passed, Daniel fully embraced his new life, working closely with Justice in the K-9 unit. What had once been a life filled with uncertainty had transformed into one with purpose, meaning, and adventure. Every morning, he woke up with a sense of pride, knowing that he and Justice were making a difference. Justice had become a local hero, not just for saving Daniel but for his exceptional skill in tracking down criminals. Stories of his bravery spread across the city. One day, as Daniel was finishing a routine patrol, his phone buzzed. It was a call from a detective named Sarah Whitmore. "Daniel, we need you and Justice on a special case." Her voice was urgent. "A child has gone missing. We believe she was kidnapped." Daniel's heart pounded. Where was she last seen? A park near the east side of town. Witnesses say they saw a suspicious man lurking around before she vanished. "We need Justice's tracking skills immediately." Without hesitation, Daniel grabbed Justice's leash. "We're on our way." Arriving at the scene, they found a devastated mother, sobbing in the arms of a police officer. "Please find my daughter. She's only 6, she cried. Daniel knelt beside her, speaking gently. "We'll do everything we can, ma'am. Justice is the best tracker we have." He pulled out the missing girl's sweater, handed it to Justice and said, "Find her, buddy." Justice sniffed the fabric, his body tensing. Then, with a determined bark, he took off. The officers followed as Justice led them through the park, weaving between trees and running toward a distant alleyway. Daniel's adrenaline spiked. The scent trail was fresh. Suddenly, Justice stopped, barking aggressively at the back door of an old abandoned house. "She's in there," Daniel breathed. The officers moved quickly, guns drawn, while Daniel held Justice back. They kicked the door open, storming inside. A few moments later, a man was dragged out in handcuffs, shouting, "I didn't do anything." But Justice ignored him, darting past the officers and into the house. Daniel followed closely behind. In a dimly lit room, huddled under a table, was the missing girl. Her big, frightened eyes met Justice's. "Hey, sweetheart," Daniel said softly. "You're safe now." The girl hesitated before reaching out. Justice gently licked her hand, reassuring her. The moment she was safely in Daniel's arms, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. Justice had done it again. As the officers returned the girl to her sobbing mother, Detective Whitmore turned to Daniel. "Your dog is incredible," she said. "He's more than that," Daniel replied, patting Justice's head. "He's a miracle, an offer that changes everything." Days after the rescue, Daniel received an unexpected visit. It was an agent from the FBI. "Daniel Carter?" the agent asked, extending a hand. "Agent Mark Holloway, FBI. We've been following your work with Justice. He's something special." Daniel exchanged a glance with Justice. "Thank you, sir. We just do our best." Agent smirked. "Your best is exactly why I'm here. How would you feel about working with the FBI? We want Justice to be part of a federal K-9 unit specializing in high-profile cases, missing persons, drug busts, even counterterrorism." Daniel was stunned. "You're serious?" "As serious as it gets. We'll train you both, provide top-tier resources, and send you on cases that matter. What do you say?" Daniel looked down at Justice, who wagged his tail as if he already knew the answer. "We're in," Daniel said. Training for a greater purpose. The next few months were grueling. FBI training was unlike anything Daniel had ever experienced. It was intense, physically and mentally demanding. He and Justice had to be in perfect sync, learning advanced tracking techniques, explosives detection, and even search and rescue operations. But through it all, their bond only grew stronger. One night, after an exhausting training session, Daniel sat on the floor of their FBI dorm room, Justice resting beside him. "You know, buddy," he murmured, scratching Justice's ears. "If someone had told me a year ago that a stray dog would not only save my life but change it forever, I wouldn't have believed them." Justice licked his hand in response. Their first FBI mission, a race against time. Barely a week after completing their training, Daniel and Justice were called in for their first major case. A deadly arms dealer, Victor Moreno, had escaped custody. He was ruthless, responsible for multiple assassinations and illegal weapon smuggling. The FBI had intel that Moreno was hiding in a remote mountain cabin, but the terrain was treacherous. No human could track him in the dense wilderness. But Justice could. Helicopters dropped Daniel and Justice deep into the mountains. With only a few agents for backup, they had to find Moreno before he disappeared for good. "Justice, track," Daniel commanded. Justice sniffed the ground, then bolted forward. They followed him through thick trees and rocky paths. Hours passed. The sun dipped behind the mountains, and just when Daniel thought they had lost the trail, Justice suddenly stopped, growling. Daniel followed Justice's gaze. In the distance, a dim light flickered inside a cabin. "We found him," Daniel whispered into his radio. The agents moved in quietly, surrounding the cabin. Then bang! A gunshot rang out. Daniel's heart slammed in his chest. He dove behind a tree as Moreno fired wildly, trying to escape. "We need to take him down before he disappears into the forest," an agent shouted. That's when Justice sprang into action. Before anyone could react, he shot forward like a missile, dodging bullets and tackling Moreno to the ground. His sharp teeth clamped down on the fugitive's wrist, forcing him to drop his weapon. Daniel sprinted over, pinning Moreno down as agents swarmed in. "You're done," Daniel growled. Moreno was arrested on the spot. The FBI director himself later commended Justice, calling him the best tracker we've ever seen. The future awaits. As Daniel and Justice boarded a plane back home, Daniel couldn't help but think about how far they had come. From a falsely accused man and a stray dog to an elite FBI duo, their journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. And deep down, Daniel knew, this was just the beginning. Wherever the next mission took them, one thing was certain. Justice wasn't just a dog. He was a legend. As the FBI jet soared through the night sky, Daniel stared out of the window, deep in thought. The past year had been a whirlwind, wrongfully accused, saved by a stray dog, and now an elite K-9 FBI agent. Still felt surreal. Justice lay at his feet, his head resting on Daniel's boot, breathing softly. Their latest mission had been a success. Victor Moreno, one of the world's most dangerous arms dealers, was finally behind bars. But Daniel knew that criminals like him were never truly alone. Someone else would be out there, ready to take his place. As if reading his thoughts, Daniel's phone buzzed. It was Agent Mark Holloway. "Daniel, we need you and Justice in Washington. There's been an incident." Daniel straightened. What kind of incident? There was a brief silence before Holloway's voice dropped to a serious tone. "A high-ranking government scientist has gone missing. And the worst part, he was working on a classified AI defense system that, if it falls into the wrong hands, could cripple national security." Daniel's grip tightened around his phone. "Do we have any leads?" "Very few. But we believe this scientist was kidnapped, not just disappeared. His name is Dr. Alan Prescott, and the last place he was seen was in his private lab, before the entire security system shut down. The only thing we have to go on is this. Daniel heard a click as Holloway sent a file to his phone. Opening it, he saw a blurry image from the lab's security feed before it went dark. But one thing stood out, a faint shadow of a dog. Daniel's eyes widened. Another dog. Holloway's voice turned grim. Not just any dog, Daniel. A highly trained K9. One that used to belong to the military before it went missing 6 months ago. Someone is using that dog to track and capture high-value targets. And we believe Dr. Prescott might not be the first. Daniel looked down at Justice, who was now awake, ears perked. Send me everything you have. We're on our way. The hunt begins. The moment Daniel and Justice landed in Washington, they were met with urgency. Inside the FBI headquarters, screens displayed maps, satellite images, and files on Dr. Prescott. Agent Holloway wasted no time. We ran a trace on the last signal from Prescott's security system. It led us to an abandoned factory on the outskirts of Maryland. We need you and Justice to track the scent and see if he's still there. Daniel nodded. We won't let you down. As soon as they arrived at the factory, the air smelled of rust, oil, and something else, fear. The place was eerily silent, with broken machinery scattered around. Daniel pulled out a piece of Prescott's clothing and let Justice sniff it. Find him, buddy. Justice lowered his nose to the ground and started moving. His body tensed, alert. They followed him through the corridors, past rusted conveyor belts and broken windows. Then Justice suddenly stopped and growled. Daniel knew that sound, danger. He drew his weapon just as a shadow moved in the distance. Then, out of the darkness, another dog emerged. A massive black Belgian Malinois, eyes locked onto Justice. It was the same dog from the security footage. A standoff. Justice stiffened, muscles coiled. The other dog did the same. But something was off. This wasn't a random attack. This dog had been trained to protect someone. And then, from behind a metal column, a voice rang out. You should leave. Now. Daniel raised his gun. Step out where I can see you. A tall man with a scar running down his cheek emerged, dressed in black tactical gear. He smirked. You don't know what you're getting into, Agent. Daniel's heart pounded. Where's Dr. Prescott? The man tilted his head. Gone. Just like the others. Daniel's grip on his gun tightened. Others? You think this is just about one scientist? The man chuckled. We're building something far bigger than you can imagine. And you're too late to stop it. Then, without warning, he threw a smoke grenade. The factory filled with thick, blinding fog. Justice, stay close. Daniel shouted. The sound of rapid footsteps echoed as the man and the Malinois disappeared into the smoke. By the time the air cleared, they were gone. A larger conspiracy unfolds. Back at FBI headquarters, Daniel slammed his fist on the table. They're not just kidnapping scientists. They're assembling something huge. Agent Holloway rubbed his temples. We ran a background check on the man you saw. His name is Nikolai Vashev. Ex-Russian intelligence. Expert in cyber warfare and black ops. If he's involved, this is bigger than just a missing scientist. Daniel exhaled sharply. We need to find him before it's too late. Just then, an analyst rushed in. Sir, we found something. Prescott's personal files. He was working on AI-driven drone technology. Autonomous weapons. Daniel's blood ran cold. Holloway turned to Daniel. We're not just dealing with kidnappers. We're dealing with the future of warfare in the wrong hands. Daniel glanced at Justice, who remained alert, as if he, too, knew the battle was far from over. And so, the hunt for Dr. Prescott and the truth had just begun. Justice and Daniel. The final hunt, a battle in the shadows. The jet roared through the icy skies, cutting across the vast, frozen landscape of Siberia. Inside the aircraft, Daniel sat in silence, mentally preparing himself for what lay ahead. This wasn't just another mission. This was war. Justice sat beside him, his golden fur barely visible under the tactical vest he now wore. He was more than just a dog, he was a soldier, a partner, a force of nature. Together, they had tracked criminals, saved lives, and taken down some of the world's most dangerous fugitives. But Nikolai Vashev was different. He was smart, ruthless, and always one step ahead. Agent Holloway's voice came through the comms. "We're 10 minutes from the drop zone. Remember, Vashev's bunker is heavily fortified. Once you're in, you'll have limited time before they realize you're there." Daniel nodded. "Understood." A soldier handed him a parachute. "You'll be dropping in alone, Agent Carter. No backup, no second chances." Daniel strapped on the parachute and looked at Justice. "You ready, buddy?" Justice wagged his tail once, as if saying, "I was born ready." The back of the plane opened, revealing the dark abyss below. The icy wind howled as Daniel stepped toward the edge. "See you on the ground," he said before leaping into the night. Infiltration begins. The moment Daniel's boots hit the snow-covered ground, he unclipped his parachute and pulled out his silenced pistol. Justice landed seconds later, rolling expertly before shaking the frost from his fur. Ahead, the entrance to the underground bunker was barely visible, just a dark, unmarked steel door embedded into the rocky terrain. Daniel moved swiftly, Justice at his side. They had practiced for this. Stealth, precision, silence. 2 guards stood outside the entrance, their rifles slung lazily over their shoulders. Daniel gave a silent hand signal. Justice took off like a shadow, launching himself at the first guard, clamping his powerful jaws around the man's arm before he could react. The second guard spun around, but Daniel was faster. A single, suppressed shot dropped him before he could raise the alarm. Justice released the first guard, who collapsed unconscious in the snow. Daniel pressed his earpiece. "We're in the heart of the enemy." Inside, the bunker was a labyrinth of steel corridors and blinking monitors. Alarms hadn't been triggered yet, which meant they still had the element of surprise. Moving quickly, Daniel followed the blueprint the FBI had provided. The drone control room would be located deep underground. If they could reach it before the AI went live, they had a chance to shut it down. But then footsteps. A squad of armed men turned the corner, rifles raised. Daniel dove behind a crate as gunfire erupted. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted off the metal walls. "Justice, flank left," Daniel ordered. Justice darted into the shadows, circling behind the enemies. Then, with a fierce growl, he struck, taking one of the soldiers down in a blur of teeth and muscle. Daniel used the distraction, rolling out from cover and taking down the rest with precise headshots. Silence fell once more. Daniel exhaled. "Good work, buddy." Justice licked his muzzle and trotted forward, leading the way. Face to face with Vashev, they reached the drone control room, a massive chamber filled with holographic displays, showing maps of cities marked for destruction. At the center of it all stood Nikolai Vashev, hands resting on the console, smirking. "I knew you'd come, Agent Carter," he said in his thick Russian accent. "But you are too late." Daniel raised his gun. "Step away from the console." Vashev chuckled. "Or what? You'll shoot me. That won't stop what's already begun." Behind him the screens flickered. A countdown timer appeared. 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, the AI-powered drones would launch, targeting major cities across the world. Daniel's heart pounded. Justice growled, baring his teeth. Vashev reached for a pistol on the desk. Bang! Daniel's shot hit him in the shoulder, sending him staggering backward. "You're not getting away this time," Daniel said, stepping forward. But Vashev only laughed, even as blood seeped through his jacket. "You still don't understand, do you?" He gestured toward the timer. "You can't stop it. This system is beyond your control." Daniel gritted his teeth. He needed to disable the drones fast. "Justice, guard him," Daniel commanded. The dog immediately positioned himself in front of Vashev, teeth bared. Daniel rushed to the console, scanning the system. The controls were locked, the AI encrypted. He needed a shutdown code. Then, a voice crackled through his earpiece. "Daniel, It's Prescott. Daniel's eyes widened. Tell me you can override this. I can, Prescott said. But you need to get to the main power relay and manually disconnect it. You've got less than 8 minutes. Daniel didn't waste a second. He sprinted out of the control room, Justice staying behind to guard Vashev. The final countdown. The power relay was deep in the bunker, surrounded by more guards. Daniel moved fast, taking them down one by one. 7 minutes. 5. He reached the relay, a massive generator pulsing with energy. A steel panel blocked the power core. 4 minutes. Daniel grabbed a crowbar and pried the panel open. Wires and circuits glowed in the dim light. 3 minutes. Which wire, Prescott? Cut the red one. Daniel pulled out his knife and, bam! A bullet grazed his shoulder. He spun around. Another soldier had found him. Before he could react, Justice tackled the enemy from behind, bringing him down hard. 2 minutes. Daniel gritted his teeth against the pain and slashed the red wire. For a second nothing happened. Then the bunker lights flickered. The countdown on the screens froze. System shut down. A heavy silence filled the room. Then Holloway's voice came through. You did it. The drones are offline. Daniel sank against the wall, breathing heavily. Justice sat beside him, wagging his tail as if to say, we won. Justice prevails. Hours later, Vashev was in FBI custody. The world was safe because of a man and his dog. As Daniel stood outside the bunker, looking at the rising sun, he smiled. Come on, Justice, he said, scratching the dog's ears. Let's go home. But deep down Daniel knew, this wasn't the end. Because as long as there was evil in the world, he and Justice would always be there to stop it. To be continued. The cold Siberian wind howled through the treetops as Daniel and Justice stood outside the now abandoned underground bunker. The mission was over. Vashev was in FBI custody, the AI drones were disabled, and the world was safe for now. But Daniel knew better. As an agent, he had learned that evil never truly disappeared. It only hid, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Justice sat beside him, ears perked, eyes scanning the forest as if he, too, could sense the unease in the air. Agent Holloway's voice crackled through the earpiece. Daniel, we have a situation. We need you back in D.C. immediately. Daniel sighed. What now? Holloway's next words made his blood run cold. Vashev wasn't working alone. There's another faction. And they've just made their next move. Back to Washington. The rising storm. The FBI jet touched down in Washington just after midnight. Daniel and Justice were immediately escorted to a high-security briefing room. The atmosphere inside was tense. Screens displayed maps, surveillance images, and encrypted messages, evidence of a new and dangerous enemy emerging from the shadows. Holloway stood at the head of the table, his face grim. Gentlemen, we're dealing with something bigger than Vashev. His organization was just the tip of the iceberg. A new image flashed on the screen. An old, faded photograph of a man with piercing blue eyes and a scar running down his jaw. Meet Anton Mirov, Holloway said. Former Soviet intelligence, now the leader of an underground network called the Shadow Operatives. They specialize in assassinations, cyber warfare, and military-grade AI technology. Daniel narrowed his eyes. Let me guess. He's after the same thing Vashev was? Holloway nodded. Mirov is even more dangerous. Unlike Vashev, he doesn't just want to sell AI weaponry. He wants to use it to reshape global power. And we believe he's already put the first phase of his plan into action. A video clip played on the screen. Grainy security footage from an airport in Berlin. A man was seen walking calmly through the terminal before suddenly collapsing. That man was a top cybersecurity expert, Holloway explained. He was assassinated using a remote-controlled nanobot injection. No trace, no evidence. Only a kill switch activated from miles away. Daniel exhaled. Mirov's testing his technology. Exactly, Holloway said. And if he's successful, No one in the world will be safe. Heads of state, military generals, even civilians. He'll have the power to eliminate anyone, anywhere, without ever stepping foot near them. Justice let out a low growl, sensing the rising tension. Daniel looked at the dog and nodded. Looks like we have a new hunt, buddy. The chase begins. Tracking Mirov. The first clue came from an unexpected source. Vashev himself. Inside his high-security cell, the Russian smuggler smirked as Daniel entered. You think I am the worst of your problems? Vashev chuckled. Mirov, he is a ghost. You will never catch him. Daniel folded his arms. Ghosts leave footprints. Where do we start? Vashev leaned forward. He has a meeting. Istanbul. 3 days from now. Daniel's jaw tightened. Istanbul. A city where the East met the West, filled with labyrinthine alleys, bustling markets, and a million places for a man like Mirov to disappear. But Daniel wasn't about to let that happen. Istanbul, the game of shadows. The moment Daniel and Justice landed in Istanbul, they were met with a chaotic energy. Tourists and traders filled the streets, unaware of the deadly game unfolding in their midst. Daniel adjusted the earpiece. Any updates from local intel? A voice crackled through, their Turkish contact, Agent Selin Kaya. Mirov's people are here, she said. We have eyes on his right-hand man, Dmitry Orlov. He's scheduled to meet with a weapons broker in the Grand Bazaar. Daniel exchanged a glance with Justice. Let's move. The Grand Bazaar. A deadly encounter. The market was a maze of narrow alleys and hidden doors. Daniel moved through the crowd, keeping his eyes locked on Orlov, a burly man with a shaved head and a deep scar across his temple. Orlov stopped at a rug shop, shaking hands with a man in a dark suit. Daniel moved closer, listening in. The shipment is ready, the broker said. High-grade AI implants, straight from the labs in Hong Kong. Orlov nodded. Mirov will be pleased. Daniel's pulse quickened. AI implants. Were they enhancing soldiers with cybernetic upgrades? Before he could react, Orlov's head suddenly snapped up. He had spotted Daniel. Run! Orlov shouted. Chaos erupted. Orlov bolted through the marketplace, knocking over stalls. Daniel gave chase, dodging panicked civilians. Justice, go! The dog sprinted ahead, weaving through the crowd like a missile. Orlov pulled a gun. Bam! Justice lunged, biting Orlov's arm, making him drop the weapon. Daniel caught up and tackled him to the ground. You're not going anywhere, Daniel growled. A shocking revelation. Back in a secure location, Orlov sat in a chair, hands cuffed. Daniel leaned in. Tell me about Mirov's plan. Orlov smirked. You're too late. The first operation has already begun. Daniel frowned. What operation? Orlov's next words made his blood freeze. The President of the United States. He's already been targeted. Daniel shot to his feet. When? Orlov laughed. Right now. A race against time. Protecting the president. Back in Washington, chaos erupted. Security at the White House was already on high alert. Daniel and Justice landed on American soil, running straight into the storm. Holloway met them at the entrance. The president is safe for now. But Mirov's nanobot assassins could already be in play. We need to scan everyone in the building. Justice took the lead, sniffing through the halls, searching for any trace of the deadly technology. Then he stopped. Justice growled at one of the aides standing near the president. The aide froze. Daniel raised his gun. Don't move. The man smirked and suddenly convulsed, his body going stiff. A faint clicking noise came from his neck. Daniel's eyes widened. It's the implant. The aide's eyes rolled back as his body dropped, lifeless. The nanobots had been activated remotely, killing him instantly. A message played on a nearby screen. Mirov's voice. Next time it won't be an aide. It will be the leader of your nation. The screen cut to black. Daniel clenched his fists. Mirov was still out there. And the next battle had just begun. Justice and Daniel. The final war. A battle for the future. The dim glow of Washington, D.C. skyline reflected off the rain-slick streets as Daniel Carter sat in the back of an unmarked FBI transport van. Justice sat beside him, ears alert, eyes sharp. They had been through countless missions together. But this one was different. This was war. The screen in front of Daniel flickered, displaying Agent Holloway's grim face. Daniel listened carefully. We've confirmed that Anton Mirov is inside the underground bunker beneath the Capitol. He's planning to release an AI-controlled virus at exactly midnight. If he succeeds, thousands of people, military officials, government leaders, even civilians, will become mind-controlled assassins. We can't let that happen. Daniel tightened his grip on his silencer-equipped pistol. We won't. Intel suggests the bunker is heavily fortified, Holloway continued. Mirov's cybernetically enhanced operatives are guarding every entrance. You and Justice will need to infiltrate from the West Tunnel. We'll provide limited backup, but once you're inside, you're on your own. Daniel looked at Justice. You ready, partner? Justice wagged his tail once, a silent affirmation. Holloway exhaled. Godspeed. The screen cut to black. The van screeched to a halt near an abandoned sewer entrance. The underground tunnels led directly beneath the Capitol, a forgotten pathway from centuries ago, now repurposed by Mirov's operatives. Daniel pushed open the doors and stepped out, his boots splashing in the puddles below. Justice followed closely. They had one objective: stop Mirov. Into the darkness. The tunnel was damp and eerily silent, the distant sound of dripping water echoing through the passage. Daniel switched on his night vision goggles. The walls were lined with security cameras. We'll have to move fast, Daniel whispered. Justice, trained for stealth, moved with precision, staying low to the ground. Up ahead, 2 guards stood at a reinforced door, their cybernetic implants glowing faintly under the dim light. Daniel pulled out his silenced pistol. He signaled to Justice. In a flash, Justice lunged at the first guard, clamping onto his arm before he could react. The second guard raised his weapon, but Daniel was faster. 2 suppressed shots to the chest, and the man collapsed. The first guard struggled, but Justice tightened his grip until the man went limp. Daniel knelt beside the control panel. Let's hope Vashev's codes still work. He entered the stolen access codes. The console blinked red for a moment, then turned green. With a low hiss, the steel door slid open. The cybernetic army awaits. Beyond the door lay a massive underground facility, humming with energy. Dozens of screens displayed maps, data streams, and live surveillance feeds from across the world. And in the center of it all, Mirov. He stood on an elevated platform, flanked by 5 cybernetically enhanced operatives. His cold blue eyes locked onto Daniel. I knew you'd come, Mirov said, his voice eerily calm. But you're too late. A massive countdown timer loomed over them. 2 minutes and 37 seconds. 2 minutes and 37 seconds until the AI virus launched. Daniel raised his gun. Shut it down. Mirov smirked. Why would I do that? He gestured to his operatives. Kill him. The cybernetic soldiers moved with inhuman speed. Daniel fired, taking down one instantly. But the others dodged, their enhanced reflexes making them nearly impossible to hit. Justice sprang into action, weaving through the chaos, dodging punches and kicks as he targeted their weakest points: joints, necks, and exposed wiring. One operative grabbed Daniel by the throat, lifting him off the ground. Daniel gasped for air, struggling against the vice-like grip. Then snap. Justice bit into the operative's leg, severing a vital nerve. The man collapsed, releasing Daniel. Daniel coughed, regaining his breath, and fired a round into another attacker's head. More guards poured into the room. The fight was far from over. The final showdown. Daniel locked eyes with Mirov. Justice, go for the console. The dog dashed toward the control station, dodging enemy fire as Daniel provided cover. Mirov drew his own weapon and fired. Daniel ducked behind cover, returning fire, but Mirov was a trained killer. Every shot was precise, deadly. Then the countdown timer flashed. 1 minute. 1 minute left. Justice leaped onto the console, clawing at the keyboard, trying to disrupt the system. Sparks flew as he bit into an exposed wire. Mirov's eyes widened. No! He lunged toward the dog. Daniel fired. The bullet hit Mirov in the shoulder, spinning him backward. Justice growled and slammed his paw onto the emergency shutdown button. The countdown froze at 7 seconds. System override. Shutdown initiated. Alarms blared. The entire bunker shook as the AI system collapsed. Mirov, bleeding, glared at Daniel. You think you've won? Daniel stepped closer, gun aimed at Mirov's head. I know I have. Mirov sneered. Then do it. Daniel hesitated for only a second. But before he could pull the trigger, the entire bunker exploded into chaos. Desperate escape. Sirens wailed as flames erupted from the consoles. The system was overloading. We need to get out now. Daniel yelled. Justice barked in agreement. Mirov, wounded but alive, disappeared into the smoke. Daniel cursed. Mirov had escaped. But there was no time to chase him. The entire bunker was collapsing. Daniel sprinted toward the exit, Justice beside him. The steel beams above groaned, threatening to cave in. As they neared the tunnel, an explosion rocked the ground beneath them. The shockwave sent Daniel flying. Darkness swallowed him. Washington, D.C., 3 days later. Daniel woke up in a hospital bed, bandages wrapped around his torso. Justice lay on the floor beside him, tail wagging weakly. Agent Holloway stood nearby. You stopped the virus, Daniel. The world owes you. Daniel sat up slowly. And Mirov. Holloway's face darkened. Gone. But he won't stay hidden for long. Daniel looked at Justice, scratching behind his ears. This isn't over, Daniel said. Holloway nodded. No, it's not.